Alrighty then, Shelter FootyCast live from BackChat Studios, our first review show of the year. It's great to be with you. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings, absolutely ready and raring. Skeeter, week 0 in the books.
It is, and we have our two premiership favourites in Hawthorn and the Giants already locked away. Hawthorn's victory sent them to premiership favourites after 4 quarters of football, and now the Giants are second favourites, and the rest, well, they can please themselves because it's all over.
I honestly don't go on social media to troll people, but I put after the Hawthorn game as a joke, right? Hawthorn are going to win the flag, aren't they? Like, do you know what I mean?
I saw that.
Yeah, so, guys, it's okay. I don't know if they're going to win it or not. Like, I just thought it was hilarious.
It came with you, though.
There was, it came from me, yeah, absolutely. How can you think that? How are you an expert? It's like, mate, who cares?
But the thing is, people, and look, I think X is quite toxic, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
If I say Will Schofield's a good bloke, I'll have 100 people come at me and say why you're not. If you have Basil Zemplis say, make a comment about Basil, good, bad, or indifferent. It is just a pile-on, and you know what? That's why I'll let you. Yes. In fact, I like just sitting up in with the popcorn, watching you do your best work. The 1 or 2 times I have done it, like during the Ashes or something, and I got it wrong, I get absolutely slaughtered.
You do just venture in there. Obviously, there's a limit of maybe a couple of JDs, and then you venture in and you come in the next day and you're like, why did I do that?
Yeah, how do I exit it? Because all these people, they got no names attached to them. I've put my real name and everything, and so you're getting people outside your front door or your house.
I look forward to 3 times a year you venture into that landscape because I know what's going on in your head. Well, Skater, there at least we've got some footy to talk about. I know there's 2 games and round 0, whatever it's called, opening round. Sorry, people are still. I've seen this morning people are kicking up a stink. I'm gonna maintain, and we're not going to go into this again because we got into it on Thursday. I don't hate it. Could it be better? Of course it could. Yeah, it was, and it was even worse with 2 of the games being cancelled. I just like the fact that there's footy. Now, I know that there'll be lots of scenarios where you can play more games, and I've heard like 4 and 5 thrown up and all that stuff. But at least we've got footy to talk about. You can agree with that, can't you?
Yeah, and the Cyclone turns it from a half-decent weekend into listen, that is the ultimate soft launch of a season, though, isn't it? Unfortunately, it's not great.
Soft
and I think the AFL would acknowledge through circumstances a bit out of their control, but it did raise the argument because last year, as you said, a lot of things went well, ratings, numbers, but the overriding feeling from fans is they want to see their team play at the start of the season. So that whether the AFL is going to stick to its guns and say, no, we're going to keep going down this path, or whether they have a look at it, maybe take on your suggestion of playing a couple of games in WISA, and you know what, even doing it under your system, leaving 1 game in Melbourne for round 1 could even be played, dare I say it, today, a Monday, in Melbourne. You know why? It's a public holiday over there. So it could be Sunday night or Sunday evening. So, there's ways to make it a better opening to the season, I think.
What I will say about the Cyclone, if we can sort of just stick on that a little bit, I haven't been totally across how bad it is there. There's been some feedback that it wasn't as bad as maybe first thought, but what's happened is, at the very least, from a football perspective, Gold Coast and Brisbane are going to struggle to train, and they've struggled to train since Wednesday or Thursday. Brisbane won't play a side over here, but West Coast play Gold Coast.
It's an easy answer.
I was wondering if that's advantage West Coast or not.
Oh, definitely. If the Gold Coast stick to their schedule.
Yeah, but also like if Gold Coast had played, and then coming over here to play their second game of the year.
I think I threw that at you on radio last week, and you didn't have an answer, and no one does have the answer.
I've thought about it, and I think that's advantage West Coast. I think you'd rather play Gold Coast fresh, both be scrapping it out a bit in the first game of the year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think obviously the only downside is if you get an injury in that first game, but I tend to think it's probably better for the Eagles and the Dockers because they're in the same situation. Geelong have missed out on a match.
Good point.
But if I'm Brisbane, now I don't know what the conditions are up there at the moment in terms of training, but you suspect given the rain, it's going to be tough to get any volume into them. Whether, or more pertinently, the Gold Coast coming over here, given our weather, come over here on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Would you come early?
Well, yeah, if you can't train. Absolutely. I think it's a no-brainer.
I think what we went through a few years ago with the ins and outs of travelling, clubs are more equipped now to do it.
Of course they are.
10 years ago, they would have been going, I can't believe it.
Because they're so stuck in their ways, and now you guys, and you went through it firsthand. You're playing off of sometimes what was the minimum amount of break? A 4 day break, yeah,
4 days. But and travelling and taking the show on the road, you don't need that much. You can get very precious. You need some footies, right? Chuck them in the bottom of the plane. Right? You need your strapping. The boys need to bring their equipment,
some boots, and
local footy, although not paid as much.
It's the same principle.
You get through. You got to get training done. You got to have access to trainers and physios, and as long as you're all together and got a couple of whistles and a couple of balls, it's not that bloody hard, Skater. So I agree. I think we could see Gold Coast over here early, and perhaps Brisbane
go to Sydney earlier.
Yeah, if that's any better weather. All right, let's talk about a couple of big issues that have happened in the couple of games we did get to see. One of the biggest ones that has come out of it, which I personally don't think it is a big deal, but lots of people are making it a big deal. Craig McRae v. Adam Kingsley. Not sure if you saw this one.
This is mate, because I called the game on radio. Yes. I didn't see it.
It was on the bench. I think they covered it in a halftime coverage, three-quarter time coverage. It had sort of gone on. There was a 50-metre penalty. Craig McRae, perhaps was having a bit of a celebration about that 50.
It was Toby Bedford on Nick Dacos, yeah?
And then I think Toby or someone had come to the bench, and Craig stood up and has walked towards the GWS bench. Adam Kingsley and McRae are both down there, and he's given I reckon, suck on those eggs or something like that, right? Yeah. Instantaneously, Adam Kingsley, who's a big man, I've got to be honest, Kingers has just turned around, eyes, Craig McRae's laughing, Fly, who, interestingly enough, spoke to Jason Ackermanis on BackChat during the week, who broke down what sort of person Craig McRae was. And not like a mosquito, but he gave him a mosquito personality. He's buzzing around everywhere. He's sort of picking holes in people, that sort of stuff. Whereas Adam Kingsley, to me, seems like quite a staunch operator. So that was the clash. Kingsley walked towards him, basically told him to sit down. There won't be any more of that coming. And I guess the issue was it was in the middle of the game. It was halfway through the quarter, and you got both coaches down there. Is it a good look? Do we say play on? I say play on. I say play on.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I get the line drawn, because you're very anti Ken Hinkley at the end of a match, having a bit of fun, which I think, again, was blown out of proportion. During the match, two coaches like that. Yeah. Well, there should be a please explain at the very least, because
they've both come out and said nothing to see here.
No, of course they would.
Because they coach together?
No, Kingsley didn't play at Brisbane, did he?
No.
So irrespective, look, you're probably right. There's nothing to see there. Interesting you say that Acker sort of said McRae is a bit like a mosquito.
He wasn't saying he wasn't either. Acker was.
No, I better say, but Acker was more like a little blowfly. Just, even more annoying. It wouldn't go away. But I think that just disguises a bigger issue at Collingwood, obviously.
Yeah, correct. We will break that game down in just a little bit. Bit of news. This is an interesting one, Skater. I'm not sure if you saw this on social media over the weekend. Avalon Airport, which is my neck of the woods.
Yeah, a huge incident.
Yeah, so Barry Clark was the man who apprehended the 17-year-old with the shotgun.
Disarmed him.
Yeah, older fella who's sitting in the front row, grabbed up, held him down with shotguns and stuff like that. Could have been
too. It could have been a serious incident if that was if he hadn't intervened at some point.
So the connection to footy, Jake Lloyd playing his 250th game. Barry Clark's a good family friend of Jake Lloyd, and he was on the plane with Jake's parents for Jake's 250th game. That's the flight that was going, and he's managed to jump up, disarm the young man with the shotgun. I'm not sure motivation and where all that stood. But
can I followed it, but not closely. Can I ask how the hell he got? Is the security? It's a bit more obviously off Broadway. Obviously,
I honestly have said this flying in and out of Avalon. So it's Avalon Airport's halfway between Melbourne and Geelong.
Yeah,
it's like a farm, mate. Like it's a bit like Busselton Airport. Like you rock up. There's no security. Like, it's just like a house.
So you don't have to go through the old radar detector, surely?
Yeah, but so apparently he's jumped the fence. But, it's not Fort Knox. So they don't have brick walls up around it. Like, it's just sort of a fence, and he's chucked a high-vis vest on. And I have often thought that, not sure how good the security levels are here, and it probably raises into question that. But, Skater, we're a footy podcast, so I just
quickly, so Barry Clark.
Yeah.
There was a Jetstar flight, wasn't it?
Yes.
He should be given by Jetstar or Avalon Airport a friggin' around the world, whatever.
Free flights.
For 12 months. Yeah. 2 years, whatever you want.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that.
Give him plenty of love.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Let's get back into footy, though. This one's an interesting one, and I've banged on a little bit about it last week, and I was watching pretty closely to see if any incidents happened this week with the pushing into contests. So Kieran Briggs, who was taken to hospital, and Skater, you were calling this game. To me, it looked like an innocuous incident. It was a marking contest. There was players around everywhere. He ended up getting stretchered off, neck brace, unconscious for a little while, which is a serious incident. Do the AFL need to take action in these parts because there was a small push?
No.
By, I think it was my check.
And same Taylor went into it. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think, put it this way, if you're going to go down the path as you did with the Ruben Jimby and you're best placed, as you've said, with defenders in these moments, I don't think there's an MRP decision to be made. Well, there's a decision to be made. It's to say it's a very sad accident.
We cannot rule on outcome. I don't know how many times I could say this. That is an outcome-based reaction talking about this incident. This happens 100 times a weekend. And just because Kieran Briggs got injured, which we don't want to say. Of course we don't want to say. But if we go down this path, there will be no contact. We'll be playing no contact, no marking contests. At training at West Coast, we used to have a hockey rule. So, in NHL when they fight, right, it's one-on-one and everyone moves out of the way.
And the great example of that was most recently when my mob, the Canadians, took on the United States. You see the fight at the start of that one?
Yeah, it was like three. They got me like one.
And the referees just go, see how long
but the rule is that there's not allowed to be a third person.
Exactly.
In, right? So at training at West Coast, when we were leading up sort of through December and January, we used to say hockey rules, which means in aerial contests, there was no third man up.
Okay.
So it just meant it was a one-on-one. If you were engaged in the one-on-one, no one was coming up and spoiling and marking. This is about 5 levels back from a 10 out of 10 match sim. This is no one anyone hurt, no one jumping, no one's getting a knee in the ribs. This is almost warm-up sort of stuff. But you say hockey rules, and when you heard hockey rules, there was no contest really. That's where this will take us to. Hockey rules. I know.
We won't get that. You can't do it.
That's why you can't enforce this rule. It's not even possible.
I mean, even like, dare I say, a completely different incident. And Toby Green, you may not have seen it, didn't take the mark. He's running back with the flight, a bit like Nick Revolt at the SCG. But the danger that he put himself. Bodies are going 360 degree angles throughout the whole match. So I'd be very disappointed if who would be the player that would be under the gun.
What if Toby
Collingwood
hit someone?
No, just in the.
I think it was Myercheck.
Myercheck just it wasn't. Yeah,
but all he's doing is positioning himself for the marking contest. I would be very surprised if there's any players out there going, "I'm going to push my man in so he gets hurt."
And you know what? Generally, the players read the room pretty quickly. If they thought it was something untoward from Myercheck, would there have been a remonstration?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's honestly the same as the head knock stuff. You have. All of us numpties out here can sit around and talk about this and say, Myercheck should have done this and that. You're making a decision that quickly. Yeah. That quickly. And so the outcome basis is just, you can't actually control it because Myercheck goes, right, well, there's the fight of the ball, players all around me, I'm going to push him under so I can mark the footy. And then Kieran Briggs comes from nowhere. He's not watching Kieran Briggs going, you're going to get him here. No one does that. So we won't be able to rule that for the entire competition. Nick Dacos was cramping, Skater.
Mate, they're all cramping. All the Collingwood players are cramping.
So this was spoken about last year.
Harley?
I'm not gonna.
Why not?
Point. Well,
why don't you point? Just be honest. Kane Corns.
Yes, I know.
Went to town on Harley Reid.
Everyone wants to do that. What I think is the interesting part. Right? Yeah, we can if you like.
No, he set himself up with that, and that's come back to bite him.
Nick Dacos, clearly a fit player, I would say. Clearly a hard-working player, probably one of the best in the competition. I have never cramped in a game of football. Does that mean I'm fitter and more well prepared than Nick Dacos or anyone who does cramp?
I sometimes cramp getting out of bed, so that probably is it. Although I do exercise a bit.
I cramp in bed all the time.
Exactly.
But on the football field, I promise I've never cramped, right? And I think that's way my body's made up. I wasn't preparing better than teammates in my team that would cramp. Some guys are
more
prone
susceptible
to cramping. Yeah. Sometimes it's work rate. So, I'm sure I've never worked as hard as Nick Dacos does out in the football field. But sometimes your body, you can't put the work into it regardless of what you're doing. And then you couple that with hot weather. You couple that with being the first game of the year.
And I'm not sure what the humidity lot was like in Sydney, but that does happen more so in like Darwin, for instance, doesn't it? When you're playing up in Darwin or those climates where, and you would have played in Queensland, times you go, it's 28 degrees here, 28 degrees there, but it's sapping up there. Correct.
So I just would be careful of calling players out for being unfit or unprepared because they cramp. Because we've just seen Nick Dacos do it. And yes, Kane spoke about Harley Reid. For what it's worth, I don't think Harley Reid's as fit as Nick Dacos. But I also don't think that because Nick Dacos prepares better and he's fitter, that he's not going to cramp. Cramping for me isn't an indicator of fitness.
Well, there's players from both teams yesterday that went through it. But
people were blowing up everywhere. It was like a war zone out there at one stage, wasn't it?
It was quite funny because he just knew. At first thing when Dacos went down, Carl on commentating said, could be his Achilles. Could be. And I said, Carl, not that I'm a medical expert, let's just wait and see what happens. Because he was just stretching his toes. And I thought, you're not doing that if you've got an Achilles.
You're not stretching out the torn Achilles. That'll absolutely rip it out of your body.
Collingwood supporters have just driven off the road. Anyone who's had a punt on him to win the Brownlow just about...
Lockie Whitfield was
he was cramping. I reckon it was half a dozen blokes. So, it's not a Nick Dacos thing, but he did look a bit banged up, to be honest with you, with a bit of a quad issue, etc. yesterday.
Right, okay. Skate, that's all the big stuff happening in the game at the moment. Charlie Curnow and Max King will be ruled out for round one as well. So that's some big news for those respective sides. Skeeter, it is yourself, myself, Will Schofield on the Shelter FootyCast. Okay, let's get into the game, Skeet. It is review time. Hawthorn defeated Sydney by 20 points at the SCG. As I mentioned on social media, Hawthorn, how impressive were they and why are they not going to win the flag?
Well, I know you're laughing about it, but what we saw, I don't think I've seen a round one before. I thought it was really good. And you don't want to say one of the best round. I just thought it was a really professional performance from a team that, there's a lot of expectation on it. They were challenged. What I thought they did really well, and Sam Mitchell, as you would attest to, is such a thorough coach, taking away a lot of the uncontested possibilities for Sydney. He broke them down really well. And look, to be honest with you, I thought they controlled the match for probably 70% of the game, maybe even a bit more. They've got the midfield, which was terrific. Will Day, probably best on.
Yep.
Close to it. No, it was a really good performance. And I just thought their midfield and their appetite around the footy was outstanding.
Yeah, I agree. Hawthorn, the impressive parts for me. And interestingly, Skater, I watched Full Sweat on...
the doco?
Yeah, on the Thursday. They played Thursday. It must have been on the Wednesday. A few things I picked up from that was how they were going to defend and the pressure they were going to put on opposition. And they spoke about closing down the space when players are picking up a footy. You saw a little midfield clip where Damien Monkhorst was talking... is it Damien Monkhorst? Who am I thinking here? Oh, no, David Hale, sorry. David Hale was talking about putting pressure on the opposition before they get their eyes up. It was just a little clip, but that's what I saw all night. Like Hawthorn players rushing Sydney players and they, because of the pressure, it made Sydney look second-rate. Now, do we think Sydney's a second-rate team? No. But the pressure they were put under made them look that way. And that's the thing about footy. And it was probably similar to Collingwood and the pressure GWS were able to put on them. But I just thought pressure elite, fundamental skills by Hawthorn. They barely fumbled. Even when it started getting wet, they were clean. And then the ability to take, at times, the ball through the corridor. It wasn't stupid. It wasn't, we're just going fast all the time, because at times they controlled the footy. They chipped around their back line. But when it was there, Scrimshaw hit one, Amy McDonald or one of those, McKenzie, one of those mids, just chiseling balls through the middle. Sicily hit one, and it just opened the whole game up. Goal. It was an easy through the corridor attacking goal. They did that 3 or 4 times during the night, And then the rest was just clean, fundamental footy. I thought it was, same as you, I thought it was very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, every metric was really in their favour. The clearance is 47 to 33, 58 to 40 inside 50s. I mean, again, that's a fair differential in opportunity for Sydney, or lack of, in their forward line.
Given that they don't really have much of that as well. So they're not getting supply, then they don't have the...
Yeah, McDonald's not there. Amati's obviously their only real tall key target at times.
McCartan was playing there. He's a backman.
He's out. Look, he's a stopgap measure at the moment. He's not going to be playing there all year if they're fit and healthy. What I would say is that the James Sicily is going to be the interesting one this year, because just, he's going to go forward at some stage. Well, if things required, and he gives you that flexibility. Like he could be like an All-Australian, for instance, in terms of playing in defence, but because he's going to be spending a bit more time in attack, Sam Mitchell, and that's where the battle Barris thing comes into play, that they've got this flexibility to pull this bloke forward, and he makes the impact, which is, he's done it last year, and they get the chance to do it more regularly this year if required.
I thought he was best on ground, and I know a lot of people are going to be sitting there going, how does Will Day not get best on ground? 3 goals, 26 disposals.
Pretty good.
And the way he was able to clear the footy, and he was a class above through the midfield. But I thought what James Sicily did, first half, in the back line, he was intercepting. He was playing the third tall, which is what he's best at, because he doesn't get the best defender. Best attacker. Tom Barris spent all his time out of the goal square on Tom McCartan, who was the best forward. Him and Amati, battle had Amati, and then Sicily ends up on nobody, right? He just gets the higher one, drops off, sits in the hole.
But those matchups you just mentioned, Sam Mitchell goes, yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Correct. And they don't do that without those two blokes in the side. Sicily's out of the goal square on Tom McCartan, probably. So it's changed the entire way that their team looks. And I had Sicily best on because in the third quarter, they sent not James Jordan, but they sent a Sydney player that I can't think of to Sicily, and they started tagging him. Will Haywood. And he was getting physical with him, and he was trying to take his attention. And Sicily did impact the game in the third quarter. Sam Mitchell
and Sydney gets back in the game.
Sam Mitchell, correct. And then Sam Mitchell goes, right, get forward. We're not getting anything out of you. They bought Weddle. They put him back because they put him forward, and then they were settled again. Sicily goes and takes 3 marks inside 50, kicks a goal, gives another one off in the first part of the last quarter. That's why I thought Sicily was best on. He impacted the game at such a high level. Will Day was terrific as well.
If in Brownlow night, you'd be surprised if Day gets the votes, just because that's how it works. But yeah, those two players were clearly, I think, near the top of the tree.
James Warple, syndesmosis injuries.
Yeah. Well, there's levels of, as we've discussed, and with Yowie. Yeah. So hopefully it's on the minus side. Now, though, you know what? I thought there was a question mark about Hawthorn, and even watching his interview on Fox pre-game, Sam Mitchell, I thought he looked really nervous. I mean, like a guy that's, because he came on and Coxie had been on just before. And Coxie, he went and sat with the panellists, and there was a bit of love there for Coxie. Very friendly bloke, good fella, everyone loves him. And then Mitch sort of got on. They said, it felt like he just
antsy.
Yes, he was just like, they were giving a bit of love to Coxie, and then he was, but his answers were considered, but he looked nervous. Yeah. And he said, and even Gary Lyons said after, he said, he looks tense, which is. Yeah,
it's funny, head coaches thinking about guys I've played under. I think you can tell a lot, and sometimes that, as long as it's it's the first round that means 4 points, right? And he's gone to the SCG, knows it's an important game. I think the antsy, wound up, tense coach. I used to be excited when Simo would come in. You can just tell.
You could tell that he was switched on.
Sometimes, but that doesn't mean you win or lose.
No.
But sometimes Simo would roll in and he'd be relaxed as like Coxie, and we'd play really well. But sometimes it would, he'd feel too relaxed, and the coaches go up and down just like players do. Yeah. I'm sure Sam Mitchell won't be like that all year. He'll have to keep himself in check. They might win 4 in a row, and then he rolls up one week and he's,
you couldn't expect them to perform like that every week.
No.
They do, as you said, on social media. They're winning the flag most likely.
A couple more highlights from Hawthorn, then just want to quickly speak about Sydney. Lloyd Meek.
He's outstanding, isn't he?
West Australian teams, I would say specifically West Coast, missed Lloyd Meek.
I was listening to Adam Simpson on SEN on Saturday morning as I was walking around the suburbs.
What did Simo say about it? Because he was coach at the time.
Yeah, no, he said he tried to get him. Now, you can put that on the table to say, well, Simo's at a meeting, so we should get Lloyd Meek, and left it at that. Or he pushed hard and was either denied by the management of Meek, by Fremantle,
Meek's
by
a
his own club.
Victorian, isn't he? Meek's a Victorian.
Yeah, so not to say that he was comfortable with the effort they put in to get Meek, but he'd say I pushed to get Meek. So that was Simone. You got to trust what he says.
Yeah, he was very, very good, wasn't he?
Yeah, and it just shows you with he's never going to be the number one ruckman at Fremantle.
Yes.
There's probably 3 or 4 clubs around the country that would have loved him, including Hawthorn, including West Coast, to, hopefully from Docker's point of view, that's what Liam Reedy can get if he leaves the club. I'm not sure he's in the same class as Lloyd Meek, but who knows? He's a big man, and he's not going to get that opportunity in the short term at Fremantle.
Lloyd Meek was the typical, it's like a big puppy dog. I played with him in 2021 at Peel, most of the games, and He was so impressive at, he would have been 19, 20 years old, but he was too big for his body. And you could just see once he had 2 or 3 years in the weights room, he was just going to be a dominant force. He used to run around at Peel. I've never seen a bloke drop so many marks, but you'd almost think that was a positive because it wasn't like he didn't know where to go.
Right position.
He was right there, and he just had big dinner plates on, basically, right? He was just slapping them up there. But I remember thinking that year going, this kid's going to be very good. And when he got traded, I always thought, I think he's going to be a force. And I think with that midfield, Hawthorn, all they want's competition from Lloyd Meek. He doesn't have to have 30 hit-outs, 2 goals, 5 marks. He doesn't need to do that.
That's why it's Maxi Gawn's great, and then we know that the best ruckmen are very good, but that's why you don't have to go out and spend all your biscuits on a high-profile ruckman, in my humble opinion.
Last one from Hawthorn, John Newcombe. 4th tripping offence, Skate. Right.
4th.
So first offence at the moment, the AFLPA.
By hand?
I haven't seen the incident, but first offence, the AFLPA have argued to get that from $1,500 to $1,000. How much do you reckon the 4th offence for tripping is?
Who's the bloke that's been fined more? That was the Port Adelaide.
Just out of interest, I've been reported twice for tripping.
Now, you don't have a headbutting as well.
I got done 4 times. One for headbutting, right? Zach Butters
on the Gold Coast.
Yep. One for punching Jack Rayol in the ribs, which he deserved, and he spewed up instantly. And I'm still very happy with that action. No, he deserved it, mate. All right, he's a pest. And then 2 for tripping. I had 1 for Mark Murphy and another in the middle of
by
the
hand or foot? Foot's more serious, surely.
I got 1 for foot and 1 by hand. No, hand's way more serious.
You think so?
Because my foot one was putting hand and foot and sort of. Just a reaction. Yes. Foot went out.
I'm thinking.
Whereas my hand one, I was chasing Mark Murphy, knew I wasn't going to catch him, and so I just stripped him like an ankle tap in rugby.
That's okay. It's rugby league. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So the question was 4 times.
4th tripping offence.
$10,000.
It's $10,000.
Is that right? I was just guessing.
10,000. Mate, I don't care what you paid. I don't care what you do. 10 grand's 10 grand, mate.
That's end of season trip stuff.
Yeah. Mate, 10 grand's a lot of money. So he'll be paying that.
So when you'll never get suspended, will you? Or is that the next step?
I don't know how many offences you do get. I mean, what's the next? Like, it just go to 20 grand. Like $10,000 is a lot of money, mate. So I just thought I'd chuck that out.
Would you rather be suspended for a week or get 10 grand?
Me personally, a week. You'll probably get 2 or 3 weeks, to be honest. Especially correct. Anyway, Sydney, Skater. Before we move on to the last game, where are they at? Was Hawthorn that good that it made Sydney look like they did, or Sydney just in a little bit of trouble here? I don't know.
I think a bit of both. And look, they miss Errol Goulden, they miss Callum Mills, McDonald. They're missing some key players there. Let's be honest. But I think it was more than just that. I just thought that Hawthorn were a level above what Sydney had to offer, and that's Coxie's first game. He's going to probably go through the emotions, the disappointment. Now he's got to get himself up for a game against the reigning premiers this week at home.
Yes.
I've got concerns, particularly their forward half. I'm not convinced about it.
But what held them up last year was their midfield.
Yeah.
Warner, Heaney.
I didn't mention Warner.
Yeah, I know.
He's a star. He's a very good player. Any questions about him not being able to focus on his footy with his contract? He just was their go-to man.
He was by far and large their best player. He had 21 touches, 2 goals, 1. He was everywhere. He looked explosive, all of that. But I just think about them last year. They used to dominate teams. You didn't mention Errol Goulden, right? So Goulden, Warner and Heaney were the guys, and they'd have 35 touches and they all kick a goal each and they'd dominate through the midfield. When you take Errol Goulden away from like a big chunk of this year, Warner plays well. Heaney had 21 touches, but
nothing that really stood out.
Explosive, 9 kicks out of the 28. It wasn't ripping it apart. I think their quality drops away pretty quick. If I just look over the list, and it sounds outrageous given they played the grand final.
Yeah, and one game of footy later.
Yeah, I'm not writing them off. I'm just saying, if you look at Brisbane, they got superstars everywhere. Do Sydney have that? With a few injuries. I don't know if they do.
This is a good time for Hawthorn to get them. And look, Sydney, I think
they'll be fine.
They'll be okay, but I maintain the fact that they've been up there like Port Adelaide for a fair while, and it's just, you wonder with injuries and that performance against the Brisbane Lions last year, I just wonder, it's not just click the fingers and you get back to you. But they did finish on top by a game last year, so there's clearly quality there.
Absolutely, Skeeter. I picked Sydney, by the way, so it's a good start for me for the year.
I think I picked Hawthorn. I tipped Hawthorn.
Yeah.
I think I tipped Sydney with you. I think I changed my tip with the West because I had about 5 minutes to go. I saw them tighten up, and I thought I had this. We had this feeling.
So you thought Sydney were going to win late?
No, I changed my tip to Hawthorn. Okay. But then, of course, the following on Sunday, I got absolutely pants by my selection of the Giant for Collingwood.
Well, if you haven't joined our tipping comp, shelterfootycast.com.au, you still can because. Round 0. It's only two games.
A lot of people have 0.
And me, right? Yeah, I picked GWS, luckily, but I'm only on 1. So if you haven't joined it and you are listening along and you want to join
and importantly, you need to be part of the campaign. We've seen the Labor Party get back in WA by people just going to the polls in big numbers. We need you to go in big numbers for the tipping comp because every person, if you beat Will Schofield by, 1 this year, and by the end of the year, he'll give you $10. Just a simple $10. So if we can get 1,000, 2,000 people beating Will Schofield this year, it will be greatly appreciated by his co-host. I'll have a lot of joy. And then Alex will say, where's the money gone out of the savings account? And Bugger Lugs, he'll have to cough up as to why he's giving money to random people on the Shelter Footycast.
Like, genuinely, I'll be like John Newcomb, mate. $10,000 fine. Thanks for coming. Okay, sign up. Shelterfootycast.com.au. You just have to be a patron to join. It's on AFL Tipping. You can get the code on Patreon when you sign up. And then there's over $7,000 in prizes to win with a slab of shell to go into the weekly winner and cash and prizes at the end of the year. GWS defeat Collingwood by 52 points at NG Stadium in a bloodbath, Skeeter. They absolutely smacked them. You called this one on radio. I listened to your call for a little bit and then watched the last half on TV. GWS, just like Hawthorn, were very impressive and Collingwood not so much.
Yeah, we talked about players missing from teams. Well, the Giants, as much as anyone, when you think of who was absent from them, their forward half, that's what the concern was. No Hogan, no Stringer, Tom Green in the middle. Green's an absolute gun. So what I did discover is, and I think we touched on it, their midfield is still very, very good. Your man Finn can do stuff with the footy. He hit the goal after starting a passage of play inside the centre square and just ran. And what it made Collingwood, look, I know when you lose by 50 points and you've got an older group, this is going to be the easiest way to describe it. They looked old and slow.
Is that right?
They did look old and slow. Pendlebury, one of the greats of the game, looked old and slow.
You can still be young and slow. It doesn't happen.
But no, they looked as if they didn't have the energy levels of the Giants. So this is one very small sample size, but they were one game in. I'm going to ask you this question because, in 6 weeks, if they're 2-5 or whatever the case may be, is there a shade of West Coast after 2018 where you obviously went and got Tim Kelly as a club and went down that path? Collingwood, after winning in 23, feels like they've headed down a similar path to try and go again. Can you see any similarities? Not to suggest for 1 second that Collingwood's going to fall off the cliff like the Eagles did.
Yeah. Collingwood has the oldest list recorded since Champion Data started keeping records in 1999.
But Pendles and that would help that, wouldn't it?
To answer your question, this only looks bad if you don't go and win a grand final again, right? So Hawthorn probably doubled down. They won 3 in a row, and we don't look at their list management strategy as, that was terrible. Why did you go and get Stewie Dew in 2008? Well, they do that and they win the flag. And there'd be lots of other teams and examples of people getting older players in, reloading the list,
But
trying to win another flag. What do you want Collingwood to do?
No, but
win the flag and start rebuilding?
No, not at all. But my point is, after winning the flag, they missed last year, okay? So they missed.
Yes.
Missed the finals. This year, they've gone down the Perryman path. Good player, don't get me wrong.
He was one of their best.
Good player. No, not question. They've gone down the Houston path. We know he's going to be a gun. But we know he's going to be a gun player. My point is, unless they get success now, this year, maybe next year, they've got their draft hand movie. They're going to have I think it could be a significant fall off. They've gone chips in, and I get that. Why you? It's not such a rebuild, but one of their bright lights yesterday, I thought, was Ed Allen, who, we haven't seen some of these young guys come through. He was good.
But this is just, and I've defended West Coast and I'll defend Collingwood, which is bizarre for me. I just don't think it's an option to start playing the kids and develop your list when.
Okay, so how long do you persist in all seriousness with a side bottom, with guys that are getting, and it's easy when they've lost, and it's going to be. And I do get that, and it's probably an overreaction, but have they got too many blokes near the end that haven't got? Can they get back to the 23 level? I don't know.
Well, I don't have them playing finals this year. I said that at the start of the year, but I do think that. You don't have much an option if you're Collingwood, and do you just let your stars fade away and cut them early like we've seen Hawthorn do or others? But you got to remember after Hawthorn did that to Mitchell and Lewis and Hodge,
they went through some pain,
right? And they got in some players as well that I'm mentally blocking myself for a while there. Tom Mitchell was one of those guys that came into Hawthorn. Like Hawthorn tried to rejuvenate their list that way.
Jarman Impey with those types of guys come through.
Yeah, maybe. But that didn't really work for Hawthorn. They had to completely start again.
But I tell you what, if there's a prototype, and there's, taking St Kilda as an example, there's lots of clubs. If you're going to go through what Hawthorn did, winning premierships and then take a bit of a hit, they've done it better than anyone, I think, to try and rejuvenate. Now, maybe that'll be Richmond in 2 or 3 years.
Winning the flags certainly helps soothe any fears or pains of everybody involved. It's like,
totally.
Oh, well, you can, we've got the flag. So Collingwood will be able to fall back on that too. They'll go, well, look.
We got one in 23.
Yeah, and we gave it a crack, and we were pretty close in 22 as well, if you remember that one. Yeah. Prelim, we did a goal. But I'm in the chips in. I like it, but chips in and you can lose your hand.
That's what they've done straight away in round one. That's like a Port Adelaide this week. Their forward line, look, they just look so clunky going forward. Got nothing out of McStay, nothing out of Membry. Mychek was ineffective. Bobby Hill started well, didn't do much after that. Elliott likewise. Schultz was quiet. So
this is up against one of the best backlines in the league.
Yeah, Sam Taylor was just. He was extraordinary, and they kept basically, instead of, we've seen it with clubs against McGovern, try and go around him. They just put it on the heads of their forwards, and Sam Taylor's came in and had the absolute saloon passage to take those intercept marks.
Yeah, so we had 12 intercepts on the day, Sam Taylor, and I think sometimes these guys, like a Sam Taylor, like the McGoverns, like these sorts of elite interceptors, they make the entries look worse than they are sometimes. And Collingwood would like to have some of them back, but he was reading it unbelievably well. Like Harris Andrews does the same. Like these guys, they cover the ground so well and they react so much quicker than their forwards that, sometimes if you're the Collingwood coach, I feel like I'm defending Collingwood half this bloody show. It's outrageous. But sometimes if you're Craig McRae or the forwards, you're just like, what are we doing here? Like, how do we can't kick it along the ground. I just think you're taking it away from Sam Taylor.
As good as he was, I just thought they were poor, the Collingwood key forwards. And you know what? And you say it all the time. If you can't take the mark, which, Sam Taylor's, you know what?
Yeah.
Halve the contest. Bring it to ground. You've got small forwards. I just didn't think they competed well enough for long enough.
Connor Idun, I think he gets a bit of a washover sometimes. He does. Connor Idun is, I think, one of the most underrated defenders in the AFL. He's lost 14% of one-on-ones in the last 3 years. He's ranked number 2 in the AFL in the top 50 defenders for that stat, and he's in a lot of them too. 14%, 1 in every 10 he loses.
Which sort of reminds me, I don't have the numbers, but Isaac Quainer was in that territory going back a little while ago.
Yeah, he was, and had a little bit of a falling away from those stats last year. So Connor Iden's one of the guys that signed on at GWS. You see the other man who has turned away $175 million to go to St Kilda to sign on.
I'll be honest with you. I had a really close look at it. I said this before, but what I saw yesterday, I laughed when that money was brought up. I thought, he can't be worth anywhere near that. Well, he might be.
No, it's interesting, like seeing what you thought.
Yeah,
I think it would have been the same for a lot of people.
And I was going to say, I hadn't paid a lot of attention to him. I thought he was a decent, but what I saw yesterday, he just looked like a bull. And bear in mind, they've got Tom Green to come back into this side. Now, I'm not sure I think the Giants in the grand final, but I made my top 8 up last week. As you could tell.
You wouldn't know what you said.
I wouldn't know what I said. But I did have them up there, but I was even more pleasantly surprised by what I saw yesterday. If you're a Giants sympathiser, which you are, and I saw your mate Dave Matthews holding babies and kissing, fans yesterday.
I'm a fan, mate. They call me a sympathiser. I'm a GWS fan. Is that all right or not? I'm not allowed to be that.
No, you are. You're a docker. You're parading flag man. We've got the merchandise in the corner there.
I'm allowed to talk positively about teams.
No, you're a fanboy for the Dockers, for the Giants. Now. The Eagles you'd like to be, but they're not quite at the point of no return. So you've got a couple of clubs. That's fine. Hawthorn you love.
So just to pull you up on your just absolute hogwash you've just come out of there. I've just looked at your predictions. We put them together.
Did you?
Premier's Brisbane.
Yeah.
All right. And this is your top 8 because I reckon you got halfway through and forgot.
Exactly. Halfway through.
Brisbane. You got Sydney 2.
Gone.
Collingwood 3.
Gone.
Collingwood at 3.
Gone.
Carlton 4.
Gone.
Freo 5. You've scraped the Hawks in there at 6.
No,
You've scraped GWS in there at 7.
Well, at least I've got the 2 premiership favourites in there.
But you just said you had them in the bloody grand
final. I have no idea what I said last week. You know that. I did no planning for it. And people listening to this should know that.
That's how we operate here.
Exactly.
Oh, that's very good. Anyway, I'll support who I bloody want. GWS outstanding. Josh Kelly was very good. A bunch of these guys got a lot more on-ball time with their biggest centre bounce and clearance guy and Tom Green being out. So Kelly played more on ball. Whitfield was sort of in and out of there. Lockie Ash with Whitfield off, then started racking it up in the back line. He had 25, but Finn Callahan was a major distributor through the middle.
They're going to have a couple of issues this week, given that Briggs won't, and Gawn's obviously going to have it. You'd think have a field day at the MCG. So that's the next test. But Grzeski was pretty good, I thought. Yeah, the big boy. Grzeski, yeah. We had a couple of variations of his name on the weekend.
Lockie Keefe and Max Grzeski, they rucked from the first quarter, basically.
Once Briggs went gone.
So they basically, Darcy Cameron had a big game.
He was good. I thought he was Collingwood's best. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought he was, and again, he was
backup ruckman.
Who? Oh, he should have dominated, as I said. But by the same token, he was, I think, numbers wise around the ground, I thought he was very close to their best. Do we do Toby Bedford a disservice by talking about Nick Dacos's cramping? And it's hard.
Do you know what I mean? Maybe he was trying to work so hard to get out of that tag, which he sort of was unable to break.
He had 4 touches inside the first 4 minutes. I'm not sure what he finished with, Nick Dacos, but and obviously his mobility became a factor. But I don't think you can diminish what Bedford did. And it was always going to be the way that Bedford, as he has done before, goes to Nick Dacos. Not every team has got one of those. I'm not sure who Port Adelaide will use this week, but there's is it Drew? Willem Drew?
Yeah, Willem Drew, but
possibly?
Does he have the pace to go?
Exactly. So anyway, no, I don't think you can diminish. Bedford will look back and think, you know what? You get lucky sometimes. I mean, he could have had the cramp and then Dacos gets off the chain.
Very good. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings, Shuttle FootyCast. All right, Skate, couple of questions to finish us off. If you want to be featured on the show, we'd love to hear from you. Send in some comments, some questions, maybe some thoughts on Skeeter and Myers, dress sense, whatever you'd like to do. You can do that on Instagram, Shuttle FootyCast on Instagram. Or you can FootyCast at BackChatStudios.com.au. We'll get an email to our inbox. Jordo on YouTube says the biggest frustration is that I don't get to see my team play in the first round. Having round one being the second round of games is a close second, though.
Yeah, Jordo, that's sort of been sort of pushing. Scully's sort of going the other way. But I do understand that. Fans, you're sitting back. Should have been 4 games, you see 2. But, if you're a local supporter, you're still waiting for next weekend.
This is back on the Cyclone sort of operation from Benno, who is an Aussie living in Florida and Texas.
Well, yeah, let's just
give it a little accent.
No, I was going to get an invite over there because I haven't been to Florida.
Okay, very good.
Getting across to
Benno, I assume you can just pay to fly us over.
Just accommodation would be nice.
All right, perfect. So he's just endured a big hurricane in Texas. I can assure you. You definitely don't want to be in your home. If you can leave the state, then you definitely would. Why sit around in floodwater with no power? All families should have been flown to Sydney and games be held there. They should have got everyone out there, says Benno.
Yeah, well, I'm never going to question blokes like him who've been through that situation. By the same token, given that wasn't happening, I could totally understand why Lachie Neale and others, including NRL players from the Dolphins, decided not to go because they didn't want to leave their families or a young family at home when there's no power, floodwaters, and you're playing a game of footy. So I do, unless you're in that position, and is it Benno?
Yep.
I totally, have to.
You and I would have no idea.
No, exactly. He does. He's been in those situations. Now, his idea is probably the most sound one, but whether the AFL or the NRL, the NRL did, of course, move a game, but where the AFL thought of relocating the families, again, a lot of people don't want to leave their houses go in those situations for good or bad, but that's a personal choice.
Thoughts on Michael Voss's proposal for opening round? I haven't seen this, so I don't really know what it was. Every state involved, 2 games in WA, 2 games in SA, 2 games in Victoria, 2 games in New South Wales, 2 games in Queensland.
So we're up to 8, are we?
1, 2, 3, 4.
This is what Jacko said.
5. No, that's...
How many games in total? If 2 here, 2 in New South Australia.
3, 4. 2 in Queensland, 1 Tas. I think that's like 11 games. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11.
11 games in the first round. That's a wreck. That's why it's one of the more extraordinary proposals. More games than there are teams. That's not
Sorry,
bossy.
what's going on here? Well, this is in from Jeff.
Jeff.
So maybe if we scrap...
Jeff, you did maths. I did maths 4, and even I know that's not right.
It took me a while to add them together. Builds excitement around the whole country. I reckon scrap Victoria, and that's basically my proposal.
Yes. So how many games do you want in the opening round?
Scrap.
What do we say? Why don't you have 9 and call it round 1 and have it the same weekend?
Yes.
Last weekend. Let's just do that next year, eh?
Why don't we just have round 1?
Jacko put this thing on radio yesterday on 6PR and he's going through, let's have 2 games. It ended up to 8 games, okay? And I said, so we're going to have opening round with 8 games and 2 teams not playing. What is the point?
And instead of calling it opening round, we just call it round 1. Also removes all the unnecessary buys. Love the show, guys, from Jeff. And so that's what's basically...
We got to the same place, yeah.
Okay. That was very good. Here's a suggestion. Let's do 9 games all around the country and we call it round 1. Like every other round. Oh, gee, I don't know why I found that so funny. Scully, you always look very sharp and well-dressed.
Bull dust.
Hang on. Just hang on. Hang on. Okay. The sentence still going. Bloody hell. That's not the question. Any other cash for comment from you? At Eagles games, right? Optus Stadium games when you're on the boundary.
You're very keen to wear the jacket, the fawny coloured jacket.
So I wore that once. You're very, very keen on reminding me about that. Don't you? Beige, the white, the cream, the off-white.
And you think, do I do the pocket squared or I don't do the pocket squared? I love it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Channel 7. Do they let you? You're in a t-shirt and thongs on air, are you? Because I've seen you looking $1 million.
Yeah, well, I do. I try and go the footy looking, at least presentable. What's the next part of this?
Until I started watching this podcast, I figured you're a wearing suits, sharp fashion, all kind type of guy. Ha ha ha. Well, piss off, mate. Piss off. All right.
So good. There's some shade coming your way.
Well, tell you what, both of our heads need a bit of shade, I can tell you that. For bouncing the ball, I think it's one of those things that is unique and interesting in our sport, as us last week talking about umpires bouncing the ball, compared to, say, NFL soccer. So people from other countries might find it interesting. I think at least start each quarter with the bounce. Personally, I like it because I think it is one of those random factors which can allow a bit of more skill or, I don't know, bounce of the ball maybe. A bounce is less predictable for a ruck and therefore less predictable for midfielders. A throw-in is a bit more predictable and a dominant ruckman may be able to do much better. Lastly, in tight parts of the game, say if it's really close and there's a few minutes left, do the throw up every time as a rule just to equalise things and to ensure no bias is given one way or the other. But I like the bounce from YouTube on YouTube.
Yeah, well, YouTube speaks a lot of common sense. And speaking of overseas, I wouldn't be surprised if we follow the NRL at some stage and maybe play a game overseas in the States in 3 or 4 years from now, leading into the Olympics. That just could be a possibility on the other side of the world.
Somewhere,
just nothing.
Sounds like there's a little bit of something's coming.
But that's just. I think it makes sense. I think Brisbane Olympics are being mentioned as part of that possibility. But yeah, it's still a few years away.
When is the Brisbane Olympics?
2032, and I've worked out my age, and you'll be 87 years older from now as well, which puts you in your 40s at least.
That's four.
You put your 40s, I'm in the 60s.
Last one that's not in here. Did you happen to see a bit of chat around the score?
Yeah, the graphics
on both 7 and Fox, so they've both changed them up.
Yeah, well, put it this way, I heard a lot of bad feedback about the Fox one. Too big, is that what they're saying?
Yeah.
And the 7 one, not so bad. But I think what I heard is that they really like the Fox commentary, and I was sort of going between 2 and 7's got I think Alistair and JB. So
it was interesting because when you call the game, I had both the 7 and the Fox Footy feed up on the TVs. It is funny, kind of watching the same game being covered by 2. The boundary riders. Like I saw at the end of the Hawthorn game. I could see the other broadcast in the background of 7 or vice versa.
It's the same as the cricket. So when the cricket's done in Australia, like Test matches, Fox does a coverage and 7 does a coverage.
Right.
So
it must be logistically tougher, you'd think, having two teams working the same game.
Not really. I mean, the NRL's done it for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, so the NRL has 9 and Fox do the same game on Friday night, but with different teams.
Right.
So this will, you'd say, it looks a bit weird or feel. I think as time moves on, it's going to happen this weekend here for the first time. Obviously, Fox is doing, you'll do your game.
I'll be down on boundary as well this week. So
is that good or bad? 30 degrees, beautiful day.
Yeah, it just depends what jacket I wear, I suppose.
Yeah.
What do you think I should wear?
I'll wear the fawn jacket. I just like it.
Fawn?
Well, whatever one, that lighter colour one. That's
do you like it or not? Or do you like talking about it?
I like talking about it. So, yeah, you'll do your stuff and we'll get the 7 thing happening. So it's good. It gives, I think, in all seriousness, I'm not taking the mickey. I think the Fox local team is excellent. I think Paps, he does a great job. Kath Loughlin's a super host. Yourself and Pav, Simo in the mix as well. It's a really, really good team.
Don't worry, I've seen yours come. I've saw the photo shoot yourself and Shawnee Mac.
Yeah, we're just
Paul Hazelby, is he there? Or making that up?
No,
he's SEM man. Danny Shuey.
We're just ticking along.
Ryan Daniels.
We're just going to be doing our very best. We might have a couple others. Martin the Crow might.
How'd it go for the photo shoot?
We stood in the studio and took some photos and then went.
A bit of head bobble from you? A bit of look
no.
I thought you were in the middle of them. You're right in the middle.
Well, I'm one of the callers, so yeah.
You're the senior caller, aren't you?
Well, as they said in the paper, a veteran AFL caller. Veteran! Gee, I suppose I am. I've been doing it for 30 years, so yeah, fair shout. No, it should be a bit of fun.
You looked good.
Well, makeup does a lot of stuff for men.
All right, Skate, we're talking absolute jargon. Make sure you sign up to the Footy Com. I'm looking forward to donating $10 to all of you. We will be back on Thursday for a big preview of Footy.
9 games.
Finally.
Hallelujah.
Is there 9? Is there actually 9? Or is there no? I didn't know if
I know. As you read
is there 9?
Let me check.
Hang on. If we're confused, I'm sure other people
have. It has to be 9. There's not a bye this week, is there? No, I think it's
no buys. 9 rounds, 9 games coming up. Shout out FootyCast. Skater, we'll see you Thursday. Thank you very much, everybody.